Hi there, fellow YouTubers. I saw that some of you had some comments on my sturgeon fishing video, and I just wanted to give a few pointers on my rig for this system for sturgeon fishing that I have come to find much success with over the years. Took me quite a while to figure this one out, but once I figured it out, was landing fish probably at a 75% success rate or better, and getting quite a few more bites and whatnot. So first off, obviously, you want a real heavy stick, at least medium heavy action or better. I like to use a boat pole. I think this one's 6.5 foot. I would say anywhere from 6 to 7 feet is about the range you want to be. Definitely a lot of backbone. You do not want a flexy tip. You want a real stiff tip on there so you can keep the pressure on the fish at all times. Um, Secondly, obviously, you want a reel to match. All of my sturgeon I've actually caught with a Pen 500, which not really up for the task if you're asking most people, but I was didn't have the money at the time, so I was just using what I had, and Pen 500 did well for me. I think I probably caught about 3 sturgeon before it burned out the drags, but for 50 bucks, it's wasn't too bad at the time. Anyway, so that's the pole setup. Now going on to the rig itself, I know most of you are probably already using the braided line for your main line, which if you're not, you should be. You'll get a better cast, further cast. This stuff cuts through, your seaweed and that kind of junk a lot better. And it's just much more durable in general for bottom fishing and that sort of stuff. And in the sloughs anyway, there's not a ton to catch up on, but it lays flatter and nicer and is a little bit less detectable. So going on to the rig, I highly, highly, highly recommend 100-pound main line, 100 braided main line. I like Power Pro, the 7 thread, this greener colored stuff is what I go with, but it's Power Pro. Excuse me, the 6 thread, I believe, and it lays real nice and flat. And doesn't want to float as much and all that, so it's nice. So you'll have your 100-pound main line. I do a real simple rig, and I just tie a loop. If you can see, boom, tie the loop in my line from the main line here. I just have a loop, and that way you can quick replace the sinker just by slipping it off. And pulling off the old sinker. Boom, old sinker's off. Now you can use that loop in your line and swap sinkers if you have big currents and whatnot. So that keeps that real simple. Then going on, you want to leave a big, big, long tag end after your loop. So you got, oh, can't quite hear it, back up. So you got your loop over here in my right hand, over here with the weight, and then over here in the other hand, as you see, extremely long leader for what most people do sturgeon fishing. Most people have like a 12, 18-inch steel leader. This leader, you're going to want to use 150-pound braided line or better, at minimum 150-pound braid. That's going to require you tying a line-to-line knot either just before or just after this loop. If you want to have added strength in this loop, I would say to tie it above the loop and make your loop out of 150-pound line. That way you won't end up with a weak spot where you tied the loop in the line. Since your main line is 100, it'll be weaker than any knots you tie in your 150. So anyway, line to line knot, tie your loop, 150-pound leader. In general, you want to have a leader that's going to be roughly as long as the fish you're catching for your heavy line. So if that fish rolls, wraps, and whatnot, you're going to be, the contact on those bony plates is going to be hitting that 150-pound braid, not your 100-pound braid. Secondly, or next, let's go onto the hook. The hook is an octopus hook. Obviously, this one has a barb on it, which you may or may not be able to see. The main thing is that you can tell here is it has an offset shank. See how offset that shank is? Obviously, you can't use the barb, you'll have to get one without a barb, which is not a problem, or bend the bar back. But you want to get an octopus hook with offset shank. And I believe this is a 6/0. You can run anywhere from a 6 to an 8/0. Really depends mostly on your bait. The size of your bait is going to dictate the size of the hook. Big hooks always, though, I would say probably not smaller than a 4/0, even if you're using grass shrimp. Just stack the grass shrimp up on the hook and, you know, throw out a little skewer shrimp. So anyway, that's the rig. The basic premise beyond this, obviously, you know, you have to keep pressure on the fish while you're fighting it. Otherwise, you know, the no barb hook will slip out. But the premise on this is keeping intense pressure on the fish at all times. By doing this, it really almost entirely disables their ability to roll. When they roll, that's when they wrap the line around their bodies and the line hits those bony plates and pops the line, you lose a fish. So even if you have your 18 inches of steel leader, doesn't really matter if that fish is able to roll on you and wrap that braid line past your steel leader and pop the braid on its bony plates. So steel leaders, yeah, it's all good and well, but you know, it's not really adding that much protection to your line, as well as a fish is going to feel steel in its mouth much more than it feels this braid. And I say braid, not mono, because mono, again, you're going to feel it, the fish is going to feel it in its mouth. This just feels like a piece of debris floating by, they sucked up with the food accidentally. Also, too, going back to the rig style, the loop in the line here is meant to be an indicator as well, act as an indicator for you. So you have your loop, let's see, your loop here, and then your main line coming off of it. Here, this might be a little better representation. There you go. There's your main, and then the loop down below. So the length of this loop here, the length of this loop to your weight is basically what acts as your strike leader, if you would. So when you throw this thing out, the weight sits down into the ground, and then the current wants to drag out your bait over here all the way to the hook. So you have it drug out like this. And now if you pull from the main line, if you pull it nice and tight, you're going to have the length of that leader of your weight that the fish can pull, and your weight won't move from the ground. So you can have, as you see right here, if you're pulling your line tight to your pull tip and the fish is pulling the other way, the fish will be able to pull that far before it actually pulls your weight, before it feels your weight. And by doing this, that much travel is how much travel you're going to get to feel the bite, to see the bite on your tip pull. When the sturgeon sucks it up in their big vacuum cleaner mouth, you know, you're going to need to have some play to be able to feel the bite on your pull tip. It works similarly how the sliders work, the plastic sliders, but this is fail safe. Plastic sliders, they can get hung up, they can get stuck down in the mud and not slide. And the sliders present friction. This presents zero friction. And all the action from the hook tip gets translated all the way up to your pole tip for you to see, you know, that dink, 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 that little bite. So anyway, that's my rundown on my rig and how to properly use it and why it works so well and the benefits of it. Anyway, feel free to comment any or question anything you have. Love to chat with you all and help you all catch more sturgeon. Anyway, thank you for listening.